Avery had always been the golden child in her design program. She had that rare gift, an innate talent for creating wearable art that stunned people. Her classmates admired her, her professors praised her, and she was poised to take the fashion world by storm. But behind her success, there were shadows. There were whispers from those who envied her. Most of them were directed at Ryan, a classmate who had once been her closest friend. He wasn't just her friend, though. He had been her collaborator, her confidant. Or so she had thought. Ryan's betrayal had been swift and brutal. He had been the one person Avery trusted with her most private designs, her raw concepts that were still in development. When she found out that Ryan had shared them with Emma, another student who had an agenda of her own, Avery's world had crumbled. The betrayal had felt like a slap to the face. They had both worked behind her back to undermine her, sabotaging her designs in an effort to gain favor with the program's top professors and the industry insiders who were always on the lookout for the next big thing. It wasn't just the stolen designs that stung. It was the realization that Ryan, the person she had once called a friend, was more than willing to destroy her career for a chance at success. The worst part? He had done it all with a smile on his face, pretending to be supportive while planning her downfall. But now Avery was no longer the naive young designer she had been when this all started. She was a woman with fire in her heart, determined to take back what was rightfully hers. The betrayal had stung, but it had also ignited something deep inside her, a drive to prove that no one could ever steal her spotlight. It was the eve of the annual design showcase at the prestigious Fashion Institute, and Avery knew this was her moment. The competition would be fierce, but it wasn't just about the awards. This showcase was her chance to expose Ryan for what he truly was and to remind the world why she was the one to watch. Avery spent that evening in her studio, her fingers tracing the outlines of her latest masterpiece. Her new design was unlike anything she had done before, a daring, boundary-pushing piece that would redefine her place in the fashion world. But she wasn't just working on the design. Avery had another plan, one that involved exposing Ryan for the scheming, manipulative person he was. The rivalry between her and Ryan had been building for months. He had tried to sabotage her once before, leaking her designs to Emma in an attempt to steal her ideas. Avery had caught wind of it and confronted Ryan, but he had denied everything. He had played the victim, claiming that Avery was overreacting. He had even gone so far as to accuse her of being paranoid. But Avery wasn't stupid. She knew that Ryan's actions spoke louder than any words he could offer. The idea for her counterattack came to her late one night while she was researching design trends. Avery remembered a conversation she had overheard weeks earlier between Ryan and Emma. They had been discussing her design portfolio in hushed tones, but Avery had caught enough of the conversation to understand their plans. Ryan had been actively plotting to ruin her work, and Emma had been right there, supporting him. She wasn't just a victim, she was an accomplice. Avery wasn't going to let that happen again. She had a plan, one that would use Ryan's arrogance and his obsession with stealing her success against him. The next day, Avery met with Claire, her best friend and confidant, to discuss the plan. Claire was a fellow designer, though not quite as well known as Avery. But Claire had always believed in her, and Avery knew she could trust her. "I know what you're thinking," Claire said as she sipped her coffee in the bustling campus cafe. "But are you sure about this? Exposing Ryan like that, it could backfire. People might not believe you." Avery nodded, her eyes focused on the coffee cup in front of her. "I don't care if people believe me, Claire. I care about proving to myself that I'm not going to let him win. I've worked too hard to let him destroy everything." "I get it. But we need proof. If we're going to do this, we need solid evidence. You can't just accuse him without backing it up," Claire cautioned. Avery's lips curved into a determined smile, I already have the evidence. I've been watching him. And I know exactly what he's going to do next. Claire looked at her in surprise. You've been spying on him? Avery shrugged. Call it what you want. But I've learned from the best. Ryan thinks he can get away with this. He's too arrogant, too sure of himself. But that's going to be his downfall. The plan was simple. Avery would feed Ryan false information about her project, making him believe that she was working on a groundbreaking new design that would blow everyone away. In reality, she would be working on a decoy, a design that was intentionally flawed, a design that Ryan would be unable to resist stealing. Once he took the bait, Avery would have the proof she needed to expose him. Days passed, and Avery kept her plans in motion. She planted rumors, made sure Ryan heard about her supposed design, and waited. As she had predicted, Ryan couldn't resist the temptation. He began to ask around about her project, trying to find out as much as he could. Avery and Claire watched as Ryan became more and more obsessed with her designs, making small, sneaky attempts to gain access to her work. It wasn't long before Ryan took the bait. One night, when Avery was working late in her studio, she received an alert on her phone. Her security cameras had been triggered. Ryan had snuck into her apartment, trying to find her design. He didn't know it yet, but he had just walked right into her trap. Avery's heart raced as she watched the live feed on her phone. Ryan was there, in her studio, moving around with a flashlight, opening drawers, rifling through her sketches, all while unaware of the cameras capturing every move. He had found the decoy design, the flawed one Avery had intentionally left out for him to find. She watched in real time as Ryan snapped photos of the design, believing he had found her secret project. The satisfaction was almost too much to bear. Avery knew that this would be the final piece of the puzzle. With this evidence, she could expose Ryan once and for all. The night before the showcase, Avery stayed up late, preparing for the big day. She reviewed the footage from her cameras, making sure everything was in place. When she felt ready, she sent the footage to Professor Williams, the head of the program, and asked to meet him the next morning. On the day of the showcase, Avery walked into the auditorium with a quiet confidence. The atmosphere was electric, filled with students, professors, and industry professionals eager to see the best designs the program had to offer. Avery had worked hard to get here, but this wasn't just about her design. This was her moment to take back control and show everyone who had been behind the sabotage. When it was her turn to present, Avery stood tall on the stage, the weight of the moment heavy on her shoulders. The spotlight shone on her as she addressed the audience. Today, I'm not just here to showcase my work, she began. I'm here to show the truth. She connected her phone to the projector, displaying the footage of Ryan sneaking into her studio the night before. The room fell silent as the evidence played out on the screen. Ryan was caught red-handed, attempting to steal Avery's design, all while believing that no one would catch him. The shock in the room was palpable. Avery continued, her voice steady and unwavering. This is what he did to me. This is what he has been doing for months, sabotaging my career, my hard work, and my dreams. Ryan stood up from his seat, his face flushed with anger. This is a setup, he yelled. You're lying. You planted that footage. But no one was listening to him anymore. The head judge, who had been silent up until this point, stood up and addressed the room. This is unacceptable, he said. We have all seen the evidence. Ryan, your actions have disqualified you from this competition. You will be reported to the administration. Avery stood tall, her eyes never leaving Ryan's furious gaze. You thought you could destroy me, Ryan, she said, her voice cold. But you've only made me stronger. Ryan was escorted out of the room by security, his protests falling on deaf ears. As the room erupted in applause for Avery's courage, she allowed herself a moment of victory. But she knew that this was just the beginning. The battle had been won, but the war for her career had only just begun. In the days that followed, Avery's designs became the talk of the fashion world. Offers from top design houses flooded in, and she found herself at the center of the industry's spotlight. Her reputation had never been stronger. And as for Ryan and Emma, they had been cast out, their schemes exposed for all to see. Avery had faced betrayal, but she had emerged victorious. She had taken back her power, her spotlight, and her future. And no one would ever take it from her again.